Vedanteshu yamahureka purusham vyapyasthitam rodasi yasmin ishvara ityananya vishaya shabdo yathatha aksharaha antaryascha mumukshubhirniyamita pranadibhirmrugyate sasthanusthira bhakti yoga sulabho nishreyasyastu. He who is lauded in the scriptures as the sole person pervading the entire ether, the Lord to whom the word of plenitude is applied rightfully. He who is in the secret heart of everyone, attained by processes like the one of breath, search through breath. May He shower His blessings for the weal and welfare of all of us. It is a solemn moment for me to stand before you all and initiate a thought movement on spiritual life. I am deeply obliged to my respected friend, Mr. Felix Layton, for taking an interest, keen interest, in the work in which I am involved and given me a fresh opportunity to come to this place, a place redolent with ancient memories for me. In fact, the one spiritual center which arrested my attention during my coast-to-coast tour last year. This was the only place where, despite my non-attachment developed over the years, I felt like coming back. And believe me, I was not amazed or surprised when the next day he came round and sounded me on the possibility of my paying another visit. I took it as the sanction of God, a work that I have to participate in. As he hinted, my master, Sri Aurobindo, has had deep connections with Dr. Annie Besant, both of whom were interested in many common themes, common quests. And when he wrote, expounding a part or a fragment of the body of knowledge that was given to him, not thought out, during 4 years of self-exploration and search of the higher realms of existence, consciousness. and started writing them, 64 pages of closely typed print every month, alone, typing the manuscripts himself, seeing the proofs himself. It was she, Dr. Annie Besant, who said that she had never in her life seen such an afflatus of spiritual knowledge as she saw in the writings of Sri Aurobindo. And when a close personal secretary of hers, Dr. B. Shivarao, not Shivarao, Shivarao was it? No. Sanjeev Rao visited Sri Aurobindo. Naturally, there was talk about the objectives and political programs of Dr. Besant, as also her occult and spiritual work. Traced a good deal of identity. And he offered his unconditional support to her political work. And he said, both she and he were given the same vision that they pursued independently. The rendering of it in life did not matter. And I have always felt attracted to the large opening, the Catholicity, the cosmic outlook that has characterized the Theosophical mind. Sri Aurobindo records in one of his writings how the world owes a good deal to this Theosophical movement for having restored that ancient body of knowledge relating to the several planes of existence, the gradations of consciousness. It was totally new to the modern religious thinking. It had been lost sight of, and it is to the credit of these early pioneers that today we can speak of planes of consciousness and the world organized on those planes. I have some connections, deep enough, with the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society in Madras, where I conducted a seminar last year on return from this place on the mystic traditions of India, and I felt much common ground, common approach, common quests to encourage me to come over to this place. The last year I had decided that I wouldn't come to this country in winter, because this winter people don't feel that winter in its severity here as we did on the eastern coast where it is snowing. And it was quite a difficult experience for me to adjust myself. But here it is warm as your hearts and minds. And I feel emboldened to speak to you not so much on philosophy, on theory, as on truths and concepts that I have imbibed at the feet of my masters, Sri Aurobindo, and the mother, a remarkable lady from France, of whom perhaps I will have occasion to speak during this series. What I have learned during the 40 years of my stay, 38 years of which were uninterrupted, stay in one place in the ashram. Ashram, as you know, is a kind of, not a retreat, a kind of teacher's place where students, disciples, inquirers are received, looked after, and not only given the doctrine, but also helped to practice the teaching in day-to-day life. We are about 2,000 people now. The ashram has been there for 50 years, and it is only during the last 2 years that I have had the inner urge to move out, share, and learn, which I have been doing without losing a moment. Now, when you speak of spiritual life, there is always a connotation that it is something different from what is called the mundane life, the life of the world. But all these conceptions, traditions, are not necessarily true. We have what is called the ordinary life, the mundane life, in which again there are many gradations. There is the life of the physical man, a man whom those who are sophisticated will call a primitive man, forgetting that most of us have something primitive in us. Sri Aurobindo said, scratch a modern man and you will find a primitive man there. We have really not progressed that much. After the advent of the first man, the primitive man. Now the primitive man, I will call him the physical man, is one who is entirely lost in details of physical life, physical comforts, first physical needs, physical comforts, physical pleasure. He doesn't see beyond. Once these...
Some people are a little hard of hearing. I wonder if you could
Yeah.
speak a little
Yeah, oh yeah. The physical man has his horizon full of physical needs. Bread, stay, clothes, little pleasure, what he calls pleasure, and there his vision ends. He is satisfied. If you were to talk to him of something more, he would consider it is irrelevant, waste of time. Now, in evolution, there is a stage when every person has to pass through that stage. That we have crossed beyond it and are on a further stage doesn't entitle us to look down upon the physical man, but only we have to recognize that there is what is called a physical life, entirely confined to the physical dimensions of existence. And then, once these physical needs are satisfied, there is the life energy, the dynamism, the ego drive that comes into play. And man wants to satisfy additional needs without which he can certainly live, but he would like to dominate the society. He would like to gain control over others. He would like to have a blown-up figure of himself. He would like to conquer territories, acquire possessions, which he may or may not need, but it gives him a sense of mastery. He is called the vital man. Vital is another word to connote all that is meant by life energies or life dynamisms. Now this vital man gives an added dimension, a needed dimension for progress. Otherwise men would stay put. He moves. He sets into movement a life style which nobody is that occupies one point continuously on the move. He is the vital man. Now, the physical man, the vital man, now these stages exist not only in an individual, but even in societies. And after after that comes the mental man, the mental life, physical life, vital life, and mental life is where you begin to think ideas, concepts, why things are there, why things are not different. That way you begin to think for yourself, or you begin to study and appreciate what other people have thought. That is the beginning of a mental life. The mind is there, a precious possession of man. Man is a mental being. And he begins to think. When he begins to think, he acquires also a power to direct his life. A vital man is largely a creature of his life passions, life movements. But a mental man, he has an existence independent of outer objective existence. There are grades and grades of mental life. There is what is called sensational existence. That is, we have the various senses, 5 senses or more, and they always rush to outer objectives, what are called sense objects, and immediately bring a report. Now, the organism called the mind, it immediately relates those data brought by the senses and gives a judgment. This is good, I must have it. This is bad, I must avoid it. And this life is what may be called the life of the sense mind, the sensational life. The first stage, the primitive stage of mind, you don't go beyond it. For everything you need a proof, a testable by the senses. Very much the stage of modern physical science. Very well. After a while, the mind begins to think, it evolves more. Is it all true that the senses report? Could there be mistakes? And he discovers what mother called that the senses are liars. And there is a discrimination comes into the operation to sift the true from the false, the right from the wrong, the good from the bad. And this is called the reasoning mind. The level of the reasoning mind starts. After that, there is the level of the intellect, where you think quite independently of the objects. Now, the reasoning mind only interprets rightly, seeks to interpret rightly the data submitted by the senses. But the data is covered from existing objects. Now, the intellectual mind does not care whether those things exist or not. It deals in thoughts, concepts, ideas, many of which may be concretized sometime later. But that is the level of the intellect. The sense mind, the reasoning mind, and the mind of the intellect. These are the stages of the mental life. The most of the people in the present cycle of evolution are in this stage of thought mind or idea mind. Those who claim to have a mental life live and breathe in this belt, that there are other dimensions beyond the intellect, behind the intellect, overlooming it. That is the realm of the spiritual consciousness, to which we'll come later. Now all these are there step by step, stage by stage, preparing for something else. Then there is, as a result of this mental life, thinking, ratiocination, analysis, what is good for me, what is good for others, what I would like to have, despite its being not very good for others, and so on. Men develop standards of what is called morality, standards of ethics. Briefly put, ethics, morality, can be described as ways of humanization of an animal. Each one of us has a loaded animal past. We try to refine them. First clothe them with pious, coats, sheets of thought, and then gradually learn to become a little more sincere and evolve codes of conduct, of belief, so that man may move away from his moorings in the animal past and move towards real manhood. In the nature of things, these standards of ethics, morality, change from time to time, from society to society. I was told, for instance, that in Polynesia, it is considered a moral duty of the eldest son to club his father to death when he becomes too old and an unproductive citizen of the society. He has to come from behind and club him to death. And they consider it is a duty, rightful duty. But you can't question their belief. From our point of view, this may appear to, and it is objectionable, but they believe that. They have to pass through that stage. So if you look back, say about 1,000 years of human history, you will find varying standards of morality, varying standards of ethics, evolving towards the crown of love, unity, harmony. This is the crown, the highest point that ethics and a moral culture can reach. But again, in morality, it is easy to mistake it for the ideal and the goal of life and become a prisoner of virtue. There is in the Buddhist system a phrase which attracted my attention very much. They speak of the sin of virtue. You practice a virtue. Tell the truth, love only one woman, be honest, go to the church on Sundays or temples. Well, you feel you have done something which the other man is not doing, and in comparing yourself to others, you feel you are superior. You have a tendency to arrogate to yourself a little higher status, and you develop a self-righteousness. Self-righteousness, you close yourself in that, and it leads to a certain self-complacency. They were very virtuous, self-assured, self-justifying approach. Very uncharitable in their dealings with others. What is expected of a developed man or a developing man? Understanding why the other person is doing what we consider to be sinful. Why is he doing? Is he doing it willfully, or is he doing it out of weakness? Is there anything I can do to help him? instead of convicting him. Man is in a great hurry to judge. Judgment of others is really a sign of mental immaturity. There is much in each one of us that calls for judgment. We are very charitable to ourselves, but severe, exacting when we judge others. Now, the morality, the codes of morality, they are all necessary. But when they are overdone, they become a gilded cage. The being of man is caught in it. And Sri Aurobindo said, the golden chain is to be broken no less than the leaden chain. So a stage comes when man can no more advance beyond the state he attains by practicing moral codes. A stage comes also when it ceases to have relevance. In the Gita, which is one of the premier scriptures of India, it is said, you have to rise above good and evil, rise above the dualities of virtue and sin. They have a role to play, but they can be overdone. And there is a level of consciousness where what you consider to be virtue appears in its true colors. It was nothing but a convenient posture for one's own self-indulgence. And what was convicted as sin reveals itself to have a brighter side also. So one has to be a little plastic, understanding in these matters, and know that moral standards, rules, regulations are relative. Once we accept that they are relative, what was valid for me and relevant for me 20 years ago need not apply to me with that rigidity today, because my consciousness has evolved further. Today, I don't need to be told, don't tell a lie. I don't need to be told that if you tell the truth, you will get a good place in heaven, that you will be rewarded. Today I feel that it is below my manhood, dignity of manhood, to tell a lie. It is against the nobility of the soul to deviate and to deform truth. For me, truth is religion, truth is God. As important as anything else. Food, sleep. And I don't need to be advised or told or coached that I have to speak the truth, think the truth and live the truth. That is moral life. There are many. And this kind of, exaggeration of moral codes and things reached its climax in the society of the Philistines, where they practiced all these on the surface, but not in the real living. It becomes a very artificial life, which people secretly break, and then hypocrisy develops. It is not in the nature of a human being to be always straight-jacketed in moral codes which were evolved, say, 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Man develops, the time spirit develops, everything moves except our codes. And there is the sphere of religion. Religion, as its name signifies, is something that ties you back to God. Man has somehow lost contact, strayed from God. and it ties you back to God. This was, each religion is a way, a means found by some blessed ones, great spirits, who had that experience, embodied consciousness of God, and communicated their particular methods of communion, experience of God to those around. Each founder of religion comes with a message which is relevant to the society in which he is born and in which he functions. Much of what he said relates to the temporal, local, historical circumstances in which he is placed. But there is always something which is eternal, which is of eternal moment. So in each religion, it is a way, a doctrine, and a practice of finding identity with God. Thus, each religion is a contribution to the progress of humanity towards the reality. Each thing has something which is of relevance to all, whether of that religion or not. Certain things are of temporary relevance. Somehow, this truth, the essentiality of each religion, gets coated, gets covered up with lot of irrelevant matter, rituals, customs, conventions, traditions, self-interest. When religion becomes institutionalized, the moment religion becomes institutionalized, it loses its soul. The truth recedes into the background, and only the outer framework remains. We go to the temples, we go to the churches, hear the priests, and go through whatever rituals we are expected to do, our minds somewhere else, and just to have the satisfaction of having done what we are expected to do. Nobody really thinks or communes or deepens his consciousness or elevates himself so that one can have a moment of communion with God and better one's life on that account. So religion becomes a matter of external practice. Priestcraft comes into being. The Pope, no offense is meant to that office, but like some of the heads of various monasteries in India, similarly there are the heads of this church and that church whose profession is to institutionalize religion, maintain the dogmas, maintain the outer framework, what is called mysticism. The soul of religion escapes from these organized institutions into forests, into hermitages, into cloisters, and religion becomes mechanical. Religion becomes a force for division instead of unity. Religion divides men, divides races. Wars are fought for in the name of religion, and they are encouraged. Special blessings of God are invoked for particular antagonists, and so on. Everything irreligious comes to be done in the name of religion. And a stage arrives when religions cease to command the loyalty of thinking man. Of course, religions, even as they are practiced, have still a role to play, because humanity is in grades and grades of development. There are certain grades of humanity which still want and need that impact on their senses, that injection of knowledge or truth or whatever it is in whatever form by somebody else. I am too lazy to work myself. I like to hear what somebody has thought and he is lecturing to me. I ask the priest to pray for me. I don't want to do all that trouble. I have a little money and I give it to him. So it is again those who are mentally lazy, those who are not developed, they need this constant impact on their senses through their bells and through their services and through the fire rituals and all that. It makes an impact. And if 100 people see, perhaps 1 or 2 awake to the inner sense behind these rituals. I am one who believes that behind every ritual, behind every act in collective worship or individual worship, there is a symbol. There is a meaning. But how many of us know what a ritual signifies? How many of us are fortunate enough to learn, to be explained what they stand for? A waving of a light, lighting of a flame should signify the lighting of a flame inside. When you ring the bell, it has a double function. One, to invoke the higher power to manifest. And a notice to those who are nether forces to depart. A flower, when it is offered, it is the most ready and pliant channel for our devotion, for our love, for our dedication. It is not a decoration, it is not an ornament. Now all these we don't keep in mind. Nobody bothers to explain to us. And diligence becomes mechanical, meaninglessly ritualistic, and they leave us the same undeveloped beings that we were before. So religions also play the part, have the role, but there it ends. Those who want to have real communion with God, call it the reality, call it something impersonal, call it God, a personal form. They go into another belt, the spiritual life. Now a spiritual life is a life based on the truth of the Spirit. What is spirit? Spirit has to be distinguished from spirits. The spirit of a thing is the truth, the core, on account of which it exists. Remove that and the thing collapses. Not to be confused with the life force, life energy. But it is the truth, the innermost truth of a thing. And that is the spirit. Everything has its spirit. And that is why Sri Aurobindo says that even matter, gross matter, is a robe of the spirit. The spirit is the soul of matter, and matter is the robe of the spirit. The destiny of man, the destiny of humanity, is to realize that matter pulsates spirit, and matter is a self-chosen and a self-formed vehicle of the spirit. And this, what is the spiritual life? What is this goal? What is this process? Depends upon the world view we take. There are a number of worldviews. How this creation has come to be, what is it due to, has it been created or has it just happened, is it just a product of chance or is there an order behind it? No, there are so many views, but broadly we can put them into three categories. One which believes, the worldview which believes in this world, what may be called the terrestrial view, that this world is real. We see it, we live in it, it impacts on our senses, we enjoy it, we suffer. Anything else other people talk we don't know. So this terrestrial view has two phases. What may be called the downright materialist view, refusing to recognize anything else except this earthly matter. Everything else is a formation and a development of that. They say even consciousness, even the mind, is an epiphenomenon of matter. Mind is a product, thought is a product of certain juices, I mean that are put out by certain glands. What people call the soul is nothing but a fine product of that. And only matter, what can be sustained and proved in terms of matter, that is real. The rest is all illusion. Well, that is one. Still there are people in the 20th century who pretend to believe in it. Now, there is a spiritual terrestrial view which believes that this earth is the field of manifestation for God. The kingdom of God is to be here on earth. All that we realize, all that we cultivate, all that we experience has to be organized and expressed on earth. There may be other worlds, there may be other planets, but this earth is the center. It is the destined place for the issue of human evolution. The earth movement, that is called the terrestrial view. There is another category of what may be called the extra-cosmic view. They say that this world has been created by God or by a power of God, not as real as God. It has an inferior existence, a lower existence, and the aim of life, all rightful life, is to withdraw, to retreat from this world and escape either into a nirvana, a zero, a non-existence, or into the bliss of a pure, white, fathomless reality, which lives and continues untouched by all the universes rolling on the surface. So the aim of this extra-cosmic view of life is withdrawal, self-cancellation, retreat into either a non-existence or a blissful existence beyond. There is another supra-terrestrial view where you look upon your life here as only preparatory to a greater life beyond. All that is good or what you think to be good, all that you think to be enjoyable is magnified. It's called heaven. All that you dread, all that you fear is again exaggerated and made hell. Heaven and hell are certain worlds which are visualized and kept before the mind of man. That is, they are the two places where you will go after you are dead, So better utilize your existence on earth either to qualify this or to escape from that and so on. So this life here has no ultimate meaning. It has a preparatory value. And what you do here, the fruits will be reaped there. There are other views in this category which don't so much emphasize on heaven and hell, but there are other worlds, other levels of existence, other locus, other worlds, where you will find things better organized, more perfect, where you go and live. And afterwards, when you have taken rest, you come back to this world to continue your journey. Now, these are different, broadly stated categories of worldviews, and depending upon what view you accept, actual life is. We started analyzing the different stages of life, the different spheres of life that man passes through. The physical life, in which there is an overall emphasis on material needs, material concerns. The vital life, where there is an urge for the fulfillment of life impulses, of domination, conquest, self-affirmation, self-aggrandizement. The mental life, where we seek to hold and press the world into a mental mold, try to understand everything in terms of mind, mentation, thought, concept, idea, and seek to understand everything in terms of the mind. Then we move into another belt of moral life, where we erect certain standards and norms, supposedly helping man to move away from his animal past and with some arrive at full manhood, and with others to move towards godhood. Then comes the age and the stage of religion, where we open a part of our life to a new way of practice and communion with God or God. When that ceases today, dynamically effective, man moves into what may be called the spiritual life, the realm of spiritual values, which depends not on outer form, not on outer rituals, but on inner faith, sincerity with which one practices what one believes in. In a word, sincere, one is sincere to oneself and to God. And the spiritual life also, we saw the precise pattern of the spiritual life depends upon the broad world view, the view of life that we adopt. There is a view that looks upon life on earth as a preparatory stage for a beatific beyond. There is a stage where life is conceived as having number of planes of existence, number of worlds. And this earth is the preeminent and the center of it. There are views also, philosophy, spiritual standpoints, which look upon a sheer non-existence, a zero, to be the final ultimate. Also, a bliss, a reality that is constituted of bliss. That is the real into which man has to disappear. Only physics and states are relevant to man as he moves, because man is not a stationary being. God himself, as related to us, is not a stationary being. The God or the divine reality that we experience or we seek to experience is both static and dynamic, involved in the movement of time and space. The reality reveals itself to us as this universe, as we individuals, as all the movements that take place. In that status, it is not involved, but it nevertheless supports. It is the impersonal, the uninvolved, the static. These are different viewpoints, and each one of us is drawn to that for which we have an inner affinity. There is nothing like high and low in spiritual matter. What is relevant to me? And how do I decide what is relevant to me? That to which I am attracted, that which gives me peace, happiness, elevation, sense of fulfillment. Now that path is my path. It does not mean that my path is the highest. It is my path. You may have another path. Each one is relevant to me. And on each path also, there is the faith that though the path is the same, the way each one treads is different. So the ideal condition is what Swami Vivekananda declared, that the ideal condition will arise when each man has his own religion. For us, those who are interested in spiritual values, each person has to use his own way. Each man, each person is a unique ray of the divine reality. And each one has a special stress to work out, to manifest. It is in that sense that we say, my truth need not be the same as your truth. This universality of comprehension is indispensable for any true, meaningful spiritual life. And I pay my deep homage to this theosophical movement of theosophy for this simple reason, that they have always kept their ears and eyes open. Any current of change, thought, is welcome. Each one has to decide whether it can be integrated with one's own life, one's own life moment. It is left to him. But nothing is to be rejected without giving an opportunity for it to justify itself. That is largely in line with the Indian tradition, where in India you will be surprised that we have no founder of religion in India. Each religion has a founder. But the broad approach, the way of life, which is miscalled Hindu religion. There was no founder of Hindu religion. It is just a name and a label fixed by our Western conquerors at one stage in history. We have large body of thought, practice, approach, which characterizes the millions of people inhabiting that subcontinent. Even today, after thousands and thousands of years of life, anyone has a right to evolve and present his own philosophy, his own type and brand of spiritual life. What is insisted upon is that it must be verifiable. He must indicate the means by which his approach, his doctrine can be verified in my life if I adopt the means that he prescribes. I can't prescribe my means. Let him prescribe, but it must be verifiable. That is why teachers, propounders of philosophy, doctrine continue to come even today. And philosophy in India is not a product of mental speculation, theorizing what could be the reality, what could be the approach to reality, a mentation, exercise of the intellect. It may be true for that person as an exercise, but it has no spiritual content. In India, the philosophy is called a darshana. Darshana means what is seen, not what is thought of, but what is seen. Those who are privileged, who are blessed with the vision, with the way, they have first to experience it in their own lives. And what they experience, they formulate in terms of the intellect. And we have philosophy. I was amused coming from a land like this, that last time when I came to this country, when some of my friends who were sponsoring the arrangement approached a university or two in somewhere in middle America, and asked that some talks of mine could be arranged under the auspices of the Department of Philosophy. The professor said, but there is no philosophy in the East. If you want to, we can arrange under the Department of Religion. Of course, my friends did not know what it was like then, and they said, all right, we arrange. And when they told me, I was amused. I would turn around the other way and say that what is called philosophy, there is no spiritual content. It is a mental exercise, a logical development dissertation. Certainly, what Bertrand Russell writes, another philosopher from England writes, they may be good as mental speculation, but they don't take you a step nearer God. Now, anything which is born out of intimacy, union, communion with God, expressed in terms of the intellect, that is true philosophy. That is true spiritual doctrine. Wherever it is, whichever part of the world, that should be accepted. And we should try to see what it is, whether it has relevance to us. And this comprehensive, universal outlook is the first requirement for spiritual life. These are period when I can digress a little. I would like to tell how my master, Aurobindo, he started his life as an agnostic. He himself said he had no serious disease. What? And when he was a boy of 7, he was kept along with his brothers in England for education. And the guardian in whose house he was kept, they one day took him to the church and tried to baptize him. It didn't make any sense to him because he did not know what is God or what is God. And so he grew up more as a poet, learning Latin, writing poetry. And when he was 16, when he was in Cambridge, he was reading the English translation of the Upanishad by Dr. Maxwell. And as he was reading, he came across the concept of the self. The Atman, the self, is immutable, stable, changeless, eternal. That fascinated this young man. He said, in this world of change and death, there is a thing that is permanent. It is a physical change. It is not involved. It is eternal. But this is something else. And his interest in Jesus started in that moment. When he returned after 14 years of study in England, when he stepped on the shores of India, the vast and the massive life of and that song, that continued to be with me for months and months together. Of some higher reality impinging upon him in the form of peace, the form of a massive calm. Later, when he was in education, stayed with years. When he was driving in a horse carriage, at that time there was no motor car. During the last century, there was a possibility of an accident. We lived that there should be no accident. And to his amazement, he saw a radiant Godhead emerging from his body, controlling the situation. And that was his concrete, visible, contracting of God. Later, a few years later, he was to visit a temple on the shores of a river. He was not particularly interested, but his friends were. So he did enter the temple. He just stood outside, and from the doorstep he him to see the image. The moment he saw it, it was not a stone image, not an idol, but he saw the world mother, the garden. That was his first vision, adding a new dimension. A few years later, when he had been in the hills, Malaya, on a desert trip, when he was standing on the summit of a hill, just lost all consciousness of the whole world. He had the experience of what is called the vacant infinite, an infinite existence, but no names and no form. He realized that reality, he had to experience reality, another aspect. And then, last, when he was incarcerated in jail on some charges. He was reading the Gita and trying to practice. Gita is a discourse, the name of Lord of God Krishna to humankind. The manifest Godhead is a representative of humanity. One day as he was walking, he just found that the huge tree under which he was resting for shade was no longer there. On the other hand, he saw the vision of a universal Godhead. The Godhead occupying the whole universe. He looked around and saw that the convicts, the warders, the fellow inmates, they all had the face of that Godhead. He was taken to the court to stand trial by noon. And there the British judge and the Indian advocates and lawyers all had that. Every man. Godhead, what he called Sanskrit Vasudeva, that gave him an individual perspective. That God has no particular scheduled form. One can approach, one can realize God in different ways, different aspects. And then he was commanded from the beginning by a false authentic word that you have to give up the politics, revolutionary politics. But you have to take on a new assignment, not the liberation of the country, but the liberation of man. Then he died, and after years of self-exploration, came out with the doctrine of life. That this world is not intended to be rejected as something foreign to God, foreign to our destiny. It is not a cage, it is not a snare, but it is a field. But we are touched God's grace, where man has a role to play. He has first to grow into the diviner consciousness. And as he grows, he has to communicate inner gain to the society. No man can be first in a universal environment. He related to society, environment, God. And not only gave, propounded the philosophy of life divine, in which he looked upon this world as a scene of evolution of consciousness. That consciousness is nothing but God. Gradually, man, at the crown of the evolutionary effort, is a great responsibility. He gives the doctrine, the philosophy, but he also builds a way, a path, to translate all this yoga. And in this he traces each yogic tradition, each line of self-development in Buddhism and spirituality, right from the beginning of history, what line it has taken, where it has brought man, what it means to the future man, to the next man. And after giving the whole body of the yogic and the spiritual, this principle, again, this insight, developed one for yoga system, and the synthesis of yoga. Graph. We first gives the bird's eye view. Why man takes the yoga. How yoga itself is nature's method justification. How each one of us practices nature's yoga whether we are aware of it or not. Then he takes yoga of work. How one develops spiritually through work in the world by heroic acceptance of the assignment which is given to him by life. How life is the proper field for the development of spirituality. How life provides the peace and the test for one. He goes on to the path of knowledge, where the mind is exploited, the ways developed by fear, philosophers are stressed in service for mental issues, and the path of knowledge, the way of knowledge. What meaning spirituals have properly done, where to stop is relevant. How devotion melts into inner adoration deepens to love, and the way now is the realization of consciousness. Yoga of the body, yoga of the life force, yoga of the kundalini, and with all these elements, we are synthesizing harmony. And it is that form this of this of my spirit. A kind of and what I think is not only wrong, but I think that here. I thought I could find this is more relevant. This is more only to understand it, but understand. So now we have come to spiritual life. My next talk, next Monday, I propose talk how one awakens. What are the ways? What comes? What suffers? What is the stability? And from that point, first, you start either more or less theoretical or what? Practical one. Based upon you have not up to survey on words. Stop, but I will be happy. Have a dialogue. And this one, let's verify the perceptions I may have.